What makes human beings separate from animals? Anybody? Anyone want to answer the question? What makes human beings separate from animals? Why are human beings different from animals? Go ahead.
Well, we can talk, or at least like in the way that humans talk, like language, like different languages. I mean, not that animals don't, but like it's different with us because we can talk like the way we do with like words as we know them.
Okay.
In senses.
Anybody else? What makes human beings different than animals?
Reflection, like conscious reflection.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Go
Is
ahead.
it cerebral cortex?
Okay. I don't know what that is. What's the cerebral cortex? Is
I
that?
don't know, it's a part of the brain.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Go ahead.
We're able to create devices and tools and manipulate the environment to help serve our needs instead of just interacting with the environment.
Yeah, well, there's a quote. If you take out your packet, the very first quote on there, someone wants to read it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. It's from Frederick Engels about what separates human beings. Yeah.
But all the planned action of all animals has never succeeded in impressing the stamp of their will upon the earth. That was left for man. In short, the animal merely uses its environment and brings about changes in it simply by its presence. Man, by his changes, makes it serve his ends, masters it. This is the final essential distinction between man and other animals, and once again, it is labor that brings about this distinction. Engels, 1876.
So yeah, that's Frederick Engels talking about how every other species simply interacts with its environment, but human beings master their environment. And this is something we've been aware of. The ancient Greeks, they had the legend of Prometheus. Prometheus was the human who stole the ability to make fire from the gods, and he brought it to the human beings. He was Prometheus. And I think, if you read the Christian Bible in Genesis, it talks about, taking dominion over the earth. And human beings, we master our environment. We force the environment around us to serve us. And we are constantly reinventing our relationship with nature. The whole history of humanity is reinventing the way we interact with our environment in order to have a bigger population, to increase our life expectancy, to make life more comfortable. And if you look at other species, beavers, they've been making their beaver dams the same way for thousands and thousands of years. And bees have been making their beehives the same way for thousands and thousands of years. But in just 5,000 to 8,000 years, we've gone from hunter-gatherer civilization to space travel, iPhones, 3D printers, and what we're doing now. No other species has the ability to not only make the environment serve us, but reinvent the way we use our environment in that way. And that's particularly unique to humanity. And I want to contrast this definition of humanity, of taking the world around you and improving it and fixing it. I want to contrast that with a term that we've been using in CPI a lot. I guess I shouldn't say a term or a phrase. It's two words. We talk about living biologically. And this is a phrase we've been using a lot because, if you look at, the weeds in your garden, they're alive. They're not dead. And if you look at rats, rats that are running around, they're alive, they're not dead, but they're not alive in the human sense. They're seeking pleasure, they're avoiding pain, and they're going through the world, but kind of like what you said, they're not reflecting. They just kind of are going through the motions. They are alive, but they're only living biologically. They're not alive in the sense that human beings are truly alive. And that many people in our world today, I would argue, are living in the same way. They're just kind of going through the motions. They're going one way, they're going another way. The system nudges them, or social media or whatever nudges them to go one way, and they go there, or they get nudged to go another way. And they're never stopping, and they're never reflecting. And I would argue that the powers that be, the people that have the power, we're talking about Wall Street in London, the ultra-rich monopolies, that they would like to reduce us all to living biologically. They see us as rats. They see us as weeds. They see us as something that they can just craft. And they're very afraid of innovation. And they're very afraid of human beings continuing to advance because it means they'll no longer be at the top of the hill. And they're quite afraid of human progress. And because they see it as like a game of King of the Mountain. And they're at the top. And then they declare game over. They're at the top forever. And I would argue that that's just not the nature of humanity. We are an innovative species. We want more than we already have. We want to grow and expand. And so they're desperately trying to reduce us to a biological existence. And that's when you talk about you'll own nothing and be happy about it. You'll live in a pod and you'll eat bugs. That's what's going on, is they're trying to strip us of the innovationism, the spark of creativity that defines what it means to be human. They're trying to reduce us to an animalistic existence. And so what we're trying to do with CPI, I mean, we're obviously trying to do a lot of things, but if you think big picture, what we're trying to do is we're trying to awaken people from living biologically, and we're trying to help people discover their true humanity, their creative ability. That is what we're trying to do with the Center for Political Innovation. We are trying to rescue people from living biologically and awaken them to be innovationists, and I think that's a noble mission. Now, if we look at human history, I talked about how human civilization is the struggle to reinvent the way we interact with our environment and increase our life expectancy, increase our population, right? There's a trajectory, right? We could talk about, you know, you have very sloppy handwriting. Is there someone who has better handwriting you might want to write on the board? Anybody? If not, you're going to have to deal with my handwriting. So, yeah, the hunter-gatherer civilization at the bottom, right? Yeah.
You might be able to lock it as well. Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, we had hunter-gatherer civilization, right? That was most of human history. That's like 9/10 of human existence was hunter-gatherer civilization. But we got too good at hunting and gathering. We developed sticks and rocks. We learned the patterns and how animal-plant life developed. And there was a scarcity of animals to hunt, and there was a scarcity of fruits and nuts to pick. And we were so good at hunting and gathering that we had no choice. We had to reinvent our relationship with nature. We had to start growing our own food. We had to start domesticating animals. And that was an economic or technological revolution, because the way we interacted with our environment completely changed. And the way history marches forward, first you have a technological or an economic revolution, but then that technological or economic revolution leads to the creation of a new class. And the emergence of a new class is called a social revolution. And when we started hunting and gathering, when we stopped hunting and gathering and started growing our own food, there was a new class of people who said, we're landowners, we're owning land. So they were the new class, and that was a social revolution. You had a new class of landowners. And then you have a political revolution out of the social revolution, because that new class set up a new system. They didn't have hunter-gatherer tribes anymore. They had states and governments, right? And so you had a political revolution. And this is generally how it happens. You have a technological or economic revolution. It leads to the birth of a new class. You have a social revolution. And then out of that, you get a political revolution, a new form of government, right? And so out of hunter-gatherer civilization, we got the empires of Mesopotamia and Egypt and Greece and Rome. We got a system called slavery. And out of slavery, we got a system called feudalism. And out of feudalism, there started to emerge all kinds of changes were happening in Europe. We had the Silk Road from Asia, and some of these great Asian inventions were coming in, like paper and printing. The printing press came in. The printing press was originally developed on the Korean Peninsula, and they were using it in China. Gunpowder, and you had a new class of people that were overseeing trade, and you had the rise of ships that were going to Africa, and the discovery of the Americas, etc. And that gave rise to a group of merchants. And eventually those merchants became a new class, and out of feudalism emerged a new class that eventually overthrew feudalism, and we got the modern capitalist world that we live in. Capitalism emerged out of feudalism in Europe, and we got the system we live under now, which is the system of production organized for profit. And I want to talk about the word capitalism, because all kinds of people use that word and mean different things. When you ask people what capitalism is, people will give you many different definitions. And the problem is, and this is a big problem in American discourse, is there's a lot of demagogy. What is demagogy? Demagogy is when you're not teaching anybody anything. You're just pandering to feelings they already have. And when I go out and I talk to people, I say, what is capitalism? They usually give me an answer that is a result of demagogy. if someone's a conservative, they generally say, well, capitalism is having your own business and having money and all of that. Well, that's not what capitalism is. There's people in various systems throughout the past that have had their own money and had their own business and had freedom. And if I talk to a liberal or a leftist, they'll say, well, capitalism is the rich, it's some people having more money than other people, and it's inequality. Well, there's inequality in other systems around the world. There's inequality in various places. Come on in.
Oh,
But she's just giving up.
sorry, we were just outreaching. We're just inviting people to a concert we're having tonight.
Oh, okay.
If you guys
Thank
want-
you, yeah, we'll take
Well, we're having a workshop if you want to come on and join us.
Oh,